Derren Brown has been showing more than one time his skills at slightly manipulating people's thought processes through some hypnotic covert abilities. In this video we are going to study how he used such techniques like NLP anchoring and some sort of pattern interrupt during a session in the subway in the United Kingdom a few years ago.
Even their memory.
Excuse me, sir. We're doing a documentary on the Underground. Can I ask you what stop you're getting off at?
Warren Street.
Pardon?
Warren Street.
Warren Street, excellent. Can I sit with you just for 2 seconds? All right. Yeah, the documentary is sort of about how easily trains of thought can become confused, and you can have a piece of information that you know that you should know, and suddenly it's just literally just gone from your mind like that. Sorry, what was the stop you were getting off at? Look at me. What was the stop you were getting off at? You said up there. What was it?
No, just trying to find it at the moment.
Look, you got it. What is it?
Warren Street.
Warren Street. Okay.
First of all, a bit of theory here before explaining specifically what he did in that example. Whenever you want to hypnotize somebody covertly, you want to bypass their thought processes and make them believe things that are not true, stuff like that, you have 3 pillars, and we find different definitions of that based on the books you are referring to. Basically, you have the heightened awareness, the fact of polarizing, focusing the attention of the person on what you say, on the words you say, which is often accomplished by saying when you stop now and leveling up the volume of your voice, or like clapping in your hands, anything that creates an interruption for the person to focus more intensely on the words being said. Then we have the very critical part, which is well named after the critical factor. It is to reduce the critical factor by putting their attention from outside awareness to internal processing. So if instead of saying something brutally like "you should do that now," you make them consider what was it like the last time they did that one thing you want them to do. If you want them to go to sleep right now because you want to hypnotize them, instead of saying sleep, if you start to asking them what was it like last time you fell asleep effortlessly, it is helping to suppress the critical factor with the command you want to induce by making them associate to something they have already lived in the past. For example, anything that is inside themselves will be less resisted than something you try to impose from scratch. And the last one is to redirect those mental processes. So it is mixed with the second one, but this time we are using what's happening in their head instead of just appealing to it. That will be used through advanced reframing. If you really know linguistics, you can change the meaning of something through sleight of mouth, for example, or through visualization. You can make them visualize something that they didn't think they would succeed at, which is very often used in coaching sessions into cognitive therapy, NLP, EMDR, stuff like that. Using their memory, shifting the perception they have of their past, all of that. Right here you can see he has been using several commands that we are going to break down to use the mental processes already available in this guy's head. And one thing to mention is that this guy was already very absorbed mentally into his newspaper. So he was already in heightened awareness probably, and since he was kind of asleep by the trance process that all of us experience when we get absorbed into reading something or watching something, then his critical factor would as a guess, be less likely to be triggered because he was already in a kind of trance. Now, that being said, Derren Brown is a master at using all of those 3 components in like 2 seconds. He goes really fast sometimes into, at the same time, using the attention of the person, at the same time using some commands and anchoring that will redirect their mental processes to believe some things and forget other things. And we are going to break down here how he did that. There is a massive use here of confusion that may not be that clear for people who don't have experience with hypnosis like this. But just the cameras or the video cameras, that alone is already confusing, because it is shocking. It is polarizing the attention, because you're not used to see cameras in like 8 or 9 in the morning in the subway. You're not used to see a whole video team that is recording everything and a guy walking around like this. It is already a kind of pattern interrupt, because it is unconventional. And the way he is approaching is also very unconventional. Like imagine there are 2 video cameras in your face right now where you watch this video, and you have a guy approaching you and asking you questions. That is already a pretty big interruption, because you're not used to that at all. And the big value of confusion is that it massively helps to reduce the critical factor, because the person doesn't have enough time to think and argue about the thing that is happening. So when you can make something unconventional happen like this, and at the same time asking several questions and talking fast about abstract details to the person like he did, that is even increasing the confusion, therefore lowering the potential defenses and making any kind of command, of hypnotic command, pass by more easily. Then the next step to bypass this critical factor is to pace the objections. You know about this concept of pacing and leading. If you had any sort of experience in sales, you know about that. Even in hypnosis, we first need to acknowledge, accept what the person believes to be true, that their life is stuck, for example, and then we lead their thoughts into a new direction. Pacing and leading, very easy. That is easy to understand in sales and in hypnosis, therapeutic hypnosis, and it is not that easy to figure out when Derren Brown does something, because he is using that much faster than we would do in a therapy session. Right here, he is pacing the ongoing normal objections the person might have in his head by, for example, saying, who the hell is this guy, why is he coming here, and how long is he going to talk to me? Because can be uncomfortable to have a stranger approaching you like this, especially with people recording your face at the same time. The first thing he says is, we are doing a documentary. That is great to establish kind of a fast rapport and to dismiss the objection. Why the hell are you guys here? Like, I'm not understanding that. Pacing the objection. We are doing a documentary. That is one objection at least lowered, at least. Then he says, can I sit here for 2 seconds? 2 seconds, which was widely known in the pickup artist world as the false time constraint, when you know you are going to potentially be annoying to somebody you want to approach. Giving a false time constraint like, oh, I'm only staying here for 2 seconds, it makes it easier for the person to accept your presence and to respond to you without too much resistance. Now, that's where we get into the trickier part, which is the language and the anchoring, the anchors he's setting up. When he says that we are doing a documentary on how trains of thoughts can become confused, have a piece of information that you know you should know, this is confusion language, basically. When you use multiple times the same activation verbs like know that you should know, and using the adverb or the adjective confused, which is already a kind of command, confused, when you have been confused by something, when in your past you read something and you were heavily confused about it, those are commands. The fact of using commands like that in his sentence are helping to overwhelm the conscious resources of the person, of the target here, and to, again, make him drop down the critical factor of, I don't really want to believe anything you say. That is lowering that critical factor. Then he's touching his arm at the same time, which reinforces the heightened attention, the awareness. When somebody is touching you, it forces you to pay attention to what they do, what they want, and it avoids the person drifting back into their thoughts, arguing over what's being said, like, yeah, what is he talking about? I'm not sure, that suppresses that. When you touch somebody, if I touch you right now, it will force your mind to come back here and not get into your head mentalizing anything. You get here and you are more absorbed by any commands I may suggest. One incredibly important, I think, clue here is that the guy so far has been following Derren Brown with his eyes, with a focused look and a relaxed jaw. When the face is relaxed, when the eyes are really focused like this, not blinking too much, and the guy is focused or the girl is focused, and all the face is kind of relaxed, you know the person is already in a less resistant state and much more likely to follow any suggestion you may say, because their level of defenses is already lowered. Everything that happens inside the head will be shown on the outside non-verbal appearance. Him following constantly Derren Brown by the eyes is a clear clue here, at least from my experience, that there's already a massive unconscious rapport being established here. And that is very important, because once that state is noticeable from your side, then you know it is ready, the person is ready for you to set the encore, whatever that encore will be. And right here, the encore is the command gone from your mind, which is calling to the process of amnesia, very often used by hypnotists on stage. Amnesia of the number 7, amnesia of your own name. Those things are some of the easiest light trance effects that any hypnotist will use to test the receptivity of a subject. And those are therefore also the easiest ones to use with somebody you haven't had more time to really give an induction to make them drop into a deep trance. Amnesia is an easier phenomenon to produce even on somebody who didn't really get hypnotized that much before. So using the command gone from your mind, at the same time he's moving his hand just like this in front of his eyes, which he calibrated probably unconsciously that his eyes were really focusing on him, then using his hand to associate the gesture with gone from your mind is making it easier to create that phenomenon of amnesia whenever he will do that again and say the command again. As usual, an encore is more powerful if you associate both something visual, something auditory, the command gone from your mind, even better if you change the tonality as you do that, and even something physical if you can touch the person, or if they feel something really intense at the moment you use the encore. All those modalities will make the encore more powerful than if you had just said one thing that could be ignored.
Know that you should know, and suddenly it's just literally just gone from your mind like that. Sorry, what was the stop you were getting off at?
So then when he says what was the stop you were getting off at, and he uses the same gesture again, the encore, then the phenomenon of amnesia is produced because he has associated that gesture with gone from your mind. Amnesia, forget, don't know anymore. That is the association he made at this point. On top of that, the language pattern he is using here is very important. It is framed in the past. What was the stop you were getting off at? What was in the past? That is reinforcing the suggestion that it is gone from your mind. Framing something in the past is amplifying the suggestion it is over. You don't know anymore. It is over, it is the end, finished. And noticing such a level of suggestibility by the guy responding to that command, and indeed having amnesia, not knowing anymore what happened, where you go, it is working. Therefore, from there, any suggestion is more likely to work. So the putting it back at this point is a no-brainer, because Derren Brown has already seen the suggestions were working. So from there, he could have definitely went even further and used much more advanced hypnotic effects, because from there the receptivity of the guy was validated. So putting it back with just a simple gesture like this, any simple command would have worked there. Any simple command that does not violate the moral standards of the person, obviously, would have worked in that context, because he was already showing a lot of suggestibility.
Can I ask you what stop you're getting off at?
Houston.
Houston, excellent. You know when you have something on the tip of your tongue and you know that you should know what it is and it just goes. So now if you think about it, what stop thinking about it now? What stop were you going to get off at? What stop thinking about it now? What was it?
It's just go.
What is it? Leicester Square? I'm sorry.
No.
Leicester
It's
Square?
my tongue, but I can't remember where it is. It's near Central.
Yeah. Or King's Cross?
No, I can see the sign.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Is that weird?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. What is it?
Euston.
Houston. What was that like? Was that strange?
Very strange. I've got a very good memory, so I can't remember.
It was on the tip of your tongue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right here we have seen him using the same kind of confusion language he used previously. However, this time, if you have been paying attention, you have seen that woman had a less relaxed face and less relaxed eyes than the previous guy. She was more frowning and like a jaw more tensed like this, so it was a good indication that she was probably less in trance than the previous guy, which Derren has probably calibrated equally, even unconsciously, so he used the command more times. If you hear it again, he used the command multiple times, much more than with the previous guy. Also because she did not follow the gesture as much when he was doing that. The previous guy was really following everything that was being put in front of his nose. She is not following as much. See, she is slightly into the process, but not as much. So in that case, he adapts. He repeats the command more times, or maybe he would have been telling a story or whatever he does. You need to calibrate where the person is at and adapt your communication based on what is displayed on their nonverbal behaviors.
The stop you're getting off at was
Archway.
Archway, excellent. Okay. And you're visiting a friend there?
Yeah, visiting a friend there.
Excellent. Okay. You got a good memory?
Yeah, I've got a very good memory. Yeah.
You look like you've got a good memory. So what stop? Thinking about it now. What stop? Thinking about it now. What stop were you getting off at? What was the stop? Do you remember why you're going there?
To visit friends.
Visit a friend. And where is it? What stop? Is that weird? That must be strange.
Oh, spooky.
Yeah. You can remember your friend?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my friends.
Can you picture his house? Where does he live? Look.
Archway.
Archway. That was very. Oh, this is Archway now. You better go. Go. Sorry, you missed that one.
This guy right here was smiling and head nodding already, so it was a good indication of a positive internal state. And if he was going to visit a friend, maybe he was just expecting to have a good time anyway during this day. In any case, he was in a good state, and Derren Brown is pacing that, building a rapport by saying those are good memories, right? So it is appealing to the semantic linked with the state he can calibrate on the person in front of him. That person is in a pretty joyful, positive state. Oh yeah, it was good memories, right? It gives the impression the person knows you, because he's just enumerating facts that are kind of obvious based on your nonverbal behaviors. And on this one, he probably set the encore before the recording is being shown. So same thing when he does a gesture and use the command, what was the stop you had to get off at, it is already working because he has been setting the encore before, and maybe they had even more discussion before that was not recorded. Sometimes Derren Brown doesn't show everything about the pre-show, the pre-planning of how he conditions people to get into trance. I think this one was pretty legit. I don't think he conditioned any more than what is shown on the video, because as we saw earlier, just the fact of having the video cameras around, it is already producing a pattern interrupt, because it is very unconventional to see that in the subway at 8 AM or 10 AM in the morning. That is very unconventional. That is focusing your attention and creating a slight shock for what's happening here. When there is a slight shock like this or a confusing moment, the mind tries to grasp the first piece of information that makes sense. So a gentleman approaching you and being quite polite with you is answering that problem, that challenge of, oh, okay, it's just a documentary, oh, okay, yeah. And then the attention is being pulled by Derren Brown here. As a conclusion, the calibration and setting of the encore is, I think, the trickiest part here, because it must be done when the defenses are already lowered, which may be tricky to produce or to notice. Developing such skills, though, is not really a recipe, because there is a lot of intuition going into what he does. it is not really a recipe of do this and this and that and it's going to work. That doesn't really happen like that. You need, and having done that, not to his level, but I have done a few things like this, you need to challenge yourself into very uncomfortable situations and awkward moments where it is not going to work. Because no, not everyone falls into a trance that fast, and the fact of having faced some brutal rejections of people telling you, who the fuck are you, like get away from me, those are the very uncomfortable moments that will make your mind adapt and develop your calibration skills up to the point where it is almost supernatural, that you can sense from a distance who is going to fall into a trance, who is not going to fall into a trance. And that's how you can make that seem more magical than when demonstrating it, because you have faced enough rejections to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. As an analogy, when you see a boxer slipping punches like it's nothing, before you get there, it's not something you do as a beginner. Before you get there, you need to have been hit in the face sufficiently hard, and it had to be sufficiently painful for your nervous system to adapt and be able to slip all those punches, because it goes way too fast in a real fight to be able to think about it. Way too fast, especially at this level, for example. So those advanced skills only happen when you have been metaphorically punched in the face. When you have approached somebody, tried to hypnotize them, did not work, and you felt like a failure. Those are the moments where you grow your skills. I know it is uncomfortable, but it is the way it works the best. Now, if you want to develop your skills with language, with influence abilities, you have a small document down below that I wrote about a year ago called The 7 Steps to Master Sleight of Mouth, which will be of massive use to reframe and to guide anybody's thoughts whenever you are in front of a resistant person, and whenever you want to condition somebody's mind to change in a more positive way. You have this document down below. Be my guest, you can read it right now, and I will see you soon in the next video. Thank you for watching.